ॐ शुक्लां भरधरं विष्णुं शशिवर्णं चतुर्भुजं प्रसन्नवदनं ध्यायेत् सर्वविघ्नोपशान्तये। ॐ सहना भवतु सहनौ भुनक्तु सह वीर्यं करवावहै तेजस्विनावधीतमस्तु मा विद्विषावहै। ॐ शान्तिः शान्तिः शान्तिः। अगजानन पद्मार्कं गजाननमहर्निशम् अनेकदन्तं भक्तानाम् एकदन्तमुपास्महे। श्रीमहागणपतये नमः। गुरवे सर्वलोकानां विषजे भवरोगिणां निधये सर्वविद्यानां श्रीदक्षिणामूर्तये नमः। अस्मद्गुरुचरणारविन्दाभ्यां नमः। वसुदेवसुतं देवं कंसचाणूरमर्दनं देवकी परमानन्दं कृष्णं वन्दे जगद्गुरुं। ज्ञानानन्दमयं देवं निर्मलस्फटिकाकृतिम् आधारं सर्वविद्यानां श्रीहयग्रीवमुपास्महे। श्रीहयग्रीवमूर्तये नमः। सरस्वति नमस्तुभ्यं वरदे कामरूपिणि विद्यारम्भं करिष्यामि सिद्धिर्भवतु मे सदा। श्रीमहासरस्वत्यै नमः। उमाकोमलहस्ताब्ज सम्भावितललाटकं हिरण्यकुण्डलं वन्दे कुमारं पुष्करस्वजं। வெற்றிவேல் முருகனுக்கு ஹரஹரோஹரா. லோகவீரியம் மகாபூஜ்யம் சர்வரக்ஷாகரம் விபும் பார்வதி ஹிருதயானந்தம் சாஸ்தாரம் பிரணமாம்யகம். சுவாமியே சரணமையப்பா. वागर्ताविव सम्पृक्तौ वागर्त प्रतिपत्तये जगतः पितरौ वन्दे पार्वती परमेश्वरौ। श्रीपार्वती परमेश्वराभ्यां नमः। कोमलं पूजयन् वेणुं श्यामलोऽयं कुमारकः वेदवेद्यं परब्रह्मा तस्मै श्रीगुरवे नमः। अस्मद्गुरुचरणारविन्दाभ्यां नमः। श्रीकृष्ण गोविन्द हरे मुरारे श्रीनाथ नारायण वासुदेव। श्रीकृष्ण गोविन्द हरे मुरारे श्रीनाथ नारायण वासुदेव। श्रीकृष्ण गोविन्द हरे मुरारे श्रीनाथ नारायण वासुदेव। पीताम्बरं करविराजितचक्रशङ्खकौमोदकी सरसिजं करुणासमुद्रं राधासहायम् अतिसुन्दरमन्दहासं वातालयेशम् अनिशं हृदि भावयामि। कृष्णो रक्षतु मां चराचरगुरुः कृष्णं नमस्ये सदा। कृष्णेनैव सुरक्षितोऽहमथ कृते कृष्णाय दत्तं मनः। कृष्णादेव समुद्भवो मम विभो कृष्णस्य दासोऽस्म्यहं। कृष्णे भक्तिरचञ्चलास्तु भगवन् हे कृष्ण तुभ्यं नमः। श्रीगुरुवायूरप्पा शरणं नम्राणां सन्निधत्ते सततमपि पुरस्तैरनभ्यर्थितानपि आर्तान् कामानजस्रं वितरति परमानन्दसान्द्रां गतिं च। इत्थं निःशेषलभ्यो निरवधिकफलः पारिजातो हरे त्वं क्षुद्रं तं शक्रवाटी ध्रुममभिलषति व्यर्थमर्त्यव्रजोऽयं। श्रीगुरुवायूरप्पा शरणं श्रीभट्टपादम् अनिशं हृदि भावयामि। वंशीविभूषितकरात् नवनीरदाभात् पीताम्बरात् अरुणबिम्बफलादरोष्टात् पूर्णेन्दुसुन्दरमुखात् अरविन्दनेत्रात् कृष्णात् परं किमपि तत्त्वमहं न जाने। കൈരണ്ടും കൂപ്പി ഞാൻ വീണ്ടുമീറക്കുന്നു നീരജലോചന നിന്നോടായി. ഏതീനു മഞ്ഞനെ കുമ്പിടേണ്ടാത്തോരു രീതിയിൽ നീ എന്നെ പാലിക്കുന്നായി. കൃഷ്ണ ഹരേ ജയ കൃഷ്ണ ഹരേ ജയ കൃഷ്ണ ഹരേ ജയ കൃഷ്ണ ഹരേ. Good evening, everyone. Thanks for joining on a Thursday evening. All right, so we just directly jump into 95. The Saturday class, we'll do the review of 94 that we did previously, right? So, all right, so this one is Kaivalya Siddhi Prakara Varnanam. So this again is a little bit connected to the previous one. That one talks about enlightenment. This one talks about liberation. Again, it's going to revolve around the same Bhakti Yoga. and how to think of visualizing Narayana as you're meditating. All of that is going to come again, part of the Uddhava Gita, which is the conversation happening between Krishna and Uddhava, right? It's part of the Ekadasa Skandam of Bhagavatam. So, right, Ritiji, you can be a student, and Bhuvana, you can be a student and stuff.
ರಾಜೇಶ್ಜಿ ಇದು ಹೆಡ್ಡಿಂಗ್ ಏನೋ ಕೈವಲ್ಯ ಸ್ಥಿತಿ
ಕೈವಲ್ಯ ಸಿದ್ಧಿ ಪ್ರಕಾರ ವರ್ಣನಂ.
ಓಕೆ, ಥ್ಯಾಂಕ್ ಯು.
மலையாளம் புக்ஸ் தியான யோகம்.
என்னோட புக்லயும் அதேதான் இருக்கு, தியான யோகா.
Means of liberation, how do you get liberated, but it is going to go into dhyanam as part of that thing. Okay, so like I said, it is going to get into dhyana yoga, and how do you imagine the Lord as part of it with the intention of getting liberated, which is the ultimate aim of this. So that's okay. Adho hairanya garbhim tanum abhikila jivatmikamastitastvam jivatvam prapya maya gunaghana kachito vartase vishwahyone tatrodbridhena satvena tu gunayugalam भक्ति भावं गतेन छित्वा तत्त्वं च हित्वा पुनरनुपहितो वर्तिता हे त्वमेव. Some of this I'm going to just quickly rush through it, the meaning. So it kind of talks now, it goes back to the beginning when we talked about even before the creation of the cosmos, when everything was in unmanifested form, which means it was just material energy which was there, and nothing had taken shape or nothing had taken form. And even before that existed, oh Narayana, you were there, and then we had all of the things which was unmanifested. And the first thing, if you remember in Dasakam 5, when we spoke about it, was the creation of Mahat, which is like a universal consciousness, which makes everybody feel that we are actually all one and we are all not different from each other. But then Ahankaram, which is the individuality and other things keep coming on top, which makes us all feel that we are actually unique. And all of that is because we are moving away from Sattva Yoga, Satvikam. We're moving away from Sattva Yoga because of his Rajas, Tamas, all of the desire, passion, ignorance. Because of all of that, we have that individualism which keeps building, and now we are how we are right now. So here he says that eventually, by by constantly meditating on you, O Krishna, I will get more and more towards the Sattva Yoga. By creating more and more towards the Sattva Yoga, I'll eventually realize that I am same as you, right? That I'm one with the consciousness, which is you as the Paramatma. I'll also become one like you. I'll come to the realization, which is eventually what is required for liberation, is that realization, and eventually I'll get there. Adau Hairanya Garbhim. Hairanya Garbhim referring to the Hiranyandam, which is the 14 words, right? Which everything in there. Adau Hairanya Garbhim Tanum Avikila Jivatmi Kamastitastvam. Jivatmi Kamastitastvam, comma. So the entire line is together. Jivatvam Prapya Maya Guna Gana Khachito Vartase Vishwayone. Even that line is together. Adho Hairanya Garbhim Tanum Avikila Jivatmikamaastitastvam Jivatvam Prapya Maya Gunagana Khachito Vartase Vishwayone.
Rajesh, after Hairanya Garbhim, my Tanu Mavikala or Mavikila?
Tanum Abhikala. Sorry, did I say kila?
My book said, I thought you said Kila.
Okay, Tanum Abhikala.
Kala, okay.
Yeah.
Rajesh ji, Tanu, we can join together, right? Tanu
Abhikila, you can join. If you want to break it, it will be Tanu Abhikala, if you want to break it.
Okay.
But where is that ma coming there then? If you
Tanum.
break it.
Tanum.
Okay.
Tanum. Okay. Abhikala.
Adau Hairanya Garbhim Tanumavikala Jivatmikamaastitastvam Jivatvam Prapya Maya Gunagana Khachito Vartase Vishwayone. Adau Hairanya Garbhim Tanumavikala Jivatmikamaastitastvam Jivatvam Prapya Maya Gunagana Khachito Vartase Vishwayone.
आदौ हैरण्यगर्भीं तनुमविकलजीवात्मिकामास्थितस्त्वं जीवत्वं प्राप्य माया गुणगणखचितो वर्तसे विश्वयोने आदौ हैरण्यगर्भीं तनुमविकलजीवात्मिकामास्थितस्त्वं जीवत्वं प्राप्य माया गुणगणखचितो वर्तसे विश्वयोने
तत्रोद्वृद्धेन सत्त्वेन तु गुणयुगलं भक्ति भावं गतेन छित्त्वा सत्त्वं च हित्वा पुनरनुपहितो वर्तिताहे त्वमेव तत्रोद्वृद्धेन सत्त्वेन तु गुणयुगलं भक्तिभावं गतेन छित्त्वा सत्त्वं च हित्वा पुनरनुपहितो वर्तिताहे त्वमेव
तत्रोद्वृद्धेन सत्त्वेन तु गुणयुगलं भक्तिभावं गतेन छित्त्वा सत्त्वं च हित्वा पुनरनुपहितो वर्तिता हे त्वमेव तत्रोद्वृद्धेन सत्त्वेन तु गुणयुगलं भक्तिभावं गतेन छित्त्वा सत्त्वं च हित्वा पुनरनुपहितो वर्तिता हे त्वमेव
तत्रोद्वृद्धेन सत्त्वेन तु गुणयुगलं भक्तिभावं गतेन छित्त्वा सत्त्वं च हित्वा पुनरनुपहितो वर्तिता हे त्वमेव तत्रोद्वृद्धेन सत्त्वेन तु गुणयुगलं भक्तिभावं गतेन छित्त्वा सत्त्वं च हित्वा पुनरनुपहितो वर्तिता हे त्वमेव
That's it. सत्त्वोन्मेषात् कदाचित् खलु विषयरसे दोषबोधेऽपि भूमन् भूयोऽप्येषु प्रवृत्तिः सतमसि रजसि प्रोद्धृते दुर्निवारा चित्तं तावद्गुणाश्च ग्रथितमिह मितः तानि सर्वाणि रोद्धुं तुर्ये त्वय्येकभक्तिः शरणमिति भवान् हंसरूपी न्यगाधीत्. So in this, in Bhagavatam, Uddhava is asking Krishna as part of the Uddhava Gita that, I heard once that you actually took the form of a swan, Hamsa, to actually teach the very difficult subject matter of the ultimate goal of yoga. Now you took that form of a swan. Why did you take that, right? So for that, Krishna replies that the Sanaka, Sananda, Sanat Kumara, Sanatana, the Sanat Kumaras, 4 of them, they once had a question to Brahma saying that, all these beings who are actually getting generated, what happens is they all get attached to anything which are sensory objects. It could be anything we eat, anything which is good for us to look at, anything which is pleasant for us to hear. They all get attached to the sense objects. And what happens is that sense objects then gets into their mind. So now they have a desire of possessing that sense object because they're getting attached to it. And once they have that, then it becomes a problem because they now have a desire to fulfill that thing. And when the thing gets taken away, they then get very upset about it. So he had a question of how do you control your mind to not get attached to sensory things? That was a question that the Sanat Kumaras asked Brahma. But Brahma then talks about how the Lord had taken the form of a swan to explain to Brahma how this is done, right? Where he kind of talks about the fact that we all think that we are the people who are doing the action. So when I'm talking, I feel like I am the one who's talking. When I'm enjoying something, I feel like I am the one who's enjoying. That is because we keep forgetting that several layers inside of me, there's a Paramatma who's sitting. And I think that I am that body. I think that it is me who is unique. He says, as long as that is because our mind keeps thinking that. But he says you have to go one more level deep, which is your intellect. And that intellect has to keep reminding your mind that you are not this body. You are not the one doing this. You are not the one enjoying this. So it has to kind of, once you come to that realization, then it says, then it is very easy to not get attached to sensory objects. Now, how does the mind come to that jnanam, right? Either you can do any kind of jnana yoga, you can get into Ashtanga yoga, or like Krishna himself says to Uddhava, one way is constant servicing me or constant service of the Lord will condition your mind to start thinking that you are one with the God. And once you start thinking you're one with the God, then you'll stop realizing that you are the one who is doing everything. You will feel like you are controlless, right? And once you get to the state, then you will not get attached to all of these things. You'll be able to control your mind. Satvon meshat kadachit khalu vishaya rase, dosha bodhepi bhuman, bhuyopyeshu pravrittis satamasi rajasi, all short is rajasi, prodhate durnivaram. Satvonmeshat kadachet khalu vishayarase doshabodhepi bhuman bhuyopyeshu pravrittis satamasi rajasi prodhate durnivaram.
Sattvoन्मेषात् कदाचित् खलु विषयरसे दोषबोधोऽपि भूमन् भूयोऽप्येषु प्रवृत्तिः satamasi, right?
Satamasi rajasi.
Satamasi, okay. Bhuyopyeshu pravartis satamasi rajasi prodhate durnivara. Sattvoन्मेषात् kadachit khalu vishayarase doshabodhepi bhuman bhuyopyeshu pravrittis satamasi rajasi prodhate durnivara.
सत्त्वोन्मेषात् कदाचित् खलु विषयरसे दोषबोधेऽपि भूमन् भूयोऽप्येषु प्रवृत्तिः सतमसि रजसि प्रोद्धते दुर्निवारा सत्त्वोन्मेषात् कदाचित् खलु विषयरसे दोषबोधेऽपि भूमन् भूयोऽप्येषु प्रवृत्तिः सतमसि रजसि प्रोद्धते दुर्निवारा
Chittam tavat gunascha grati tamiha mitaha, that is there, remove it, put a visarga comma, mitaha, tani sarvani rodhum, turye tvayeka bhaktihi, that ish that is there, that goes away, visarga comma, bhaktihi, sharanamiti bhavan hamsa rupi nyagadit. Chittam tavad gunascha gratitamiha mitaha tani sarvani rodhum turye tvayeka bhaktihi sharanamiti bhavan hamsa rupi nyagadit.
Chittam tavad gunascha grathitamiha mitaha tani sarvani rodhum turye toyeka bhaktihi sharanamiti bhavan hamsarupi nyagadit. Chittam tavad gunascha grathitamiha mitaha tani sarvani rodhum turye toyeka bhaktihi sharanamiti bhavan hamsarupi nyagadit.
चित्तं तावत् गुणाश्च ग्रथितमिह तानि सर्वाणि रोद्धुं तुर्ये त्वय्येक भक्तिः शरणमिति भवान् हंसरूपी न्यगादीत् चित्तं तावत् गुणाश्च ग्रथितमिह तानि सर्वाणि रोद्धुं तुर्ये त्वय्येक भक्तिः शरणमिति भवान् हंसरूपी न्यगादीत्
Tanti श्रेयांसि भूयांस्यपि रुचिभिदया कर्मिणां निर्मितानि क्षुद्रानन्दाश्च सन्ता बहुविधगतयः कृष्णतेभ्यो भवेयुः त्वं चाचक्यातसख्येन नु महिततमां श्रेयसां भक्तिमेकां त्वद्भक्त्यानन्दतुल्यः खलु विषयजुषां सम्मतः केन वा स्यात्. Like we a couple of times, he's talked about this, that there's no hard and fast rule that this is the only way to liberation, right? You can follow anything you want. But he talks specifically about karma yoga. This is the challenge with karma yoga, and this is what even Narada tells Vyasa also, which Krishna also tells Uddhava. He says the problem with karma yoga is things have been laid out in such a way which says you do this, these are all good for you, you get the benefits. You do these things, these are all bad for you. And if you do these bad things, here are some pariharams to overcome the bad things. Now, the problem is you are supposed to be doing that only after with good intentions. But because people are so attached to desires, they only look at it from a surface, and we all have that if I do this, I get this benefit. If I don't do this, I get this thing. If I don't get this, I can do this parihara. So people start kind of thinking in that way, because of which they start doing things to only get benefits, which is they say you break a coconut, you'll pass an exam, right? So then people will say, okay, I'm just going to break a coconut, I'm going to pass an exam. And then you don't pass the exam, you get worried about not getting that result, right? So you kind of start getting into that cycle of always wanting things and doing this karma yoga with the only an intention of getting a desire, which is the absolutely wrong way of doing it, right? So because of that is where Krishna is saying to Uddhava that because of which that's why devotion is important, because devotion to the extent, and he'll talk about what devotion is in the next stanza, but he says that devotion where you are not asking for anything, which is the true devotion, is the best way, because otherwise you'll always keep chasing after your desires, right? Which is a problem with karma yoga, because it's very difficult for common humans to get over it. Santi shreyamsi bhuyamsyapi, ruchi bhidaya karminam nirmitani, short e, क्षुद्रानन्दाश्च सान्ता बहुविधगतयः, कृष्ण तेभ्यो भवेयुः. सन्ति श्रेयांसि भूयांस्यपि रुचिभिदया कर्मिणां निर्मितानि, क्षुद्रानन्दाश्च सान्ता बहुविधगतयः, कृष्ण तेभ्यो भवेयुः.
Santi shreyamsi bhuyamsyapi ruchibhidaya karminam nirmitani kshudranandascha santa bahuvidhagatayah Krishna tebhyo bhaveyuhu. Santi shreyamsi bhuyamsyapi ruchibhidaya karminam nirmitani kshudranandascha santa bahuvidhagatayah Krishna tebhyo bhaveyuhu.
सन्ति श्रेयांसि भूयांस्यपि रुचिभिदया कर्मिणां निर्मितानि, क्षुद्रानन्दाश्च सान्ता बहुविधगतयः, कृष्ण तेभ्यो भवेयुः. सन्ति श्रेयांसि भूयांस्यपि रुचिभिदया कर्मिणां निर्मितानि, क्षुद्रानन्दाश्च सान्ता बहुविधगतयः, कृष्ण तेभ्यो भवेयुः.
त्वं चाचख्यात सख्ये ननु महित तमां, श्रेयसां भक्तिमेकां, त्वद् भक्त्यानंद तुल्यः, खलु विषय जुषां सम्मदः, पुट इह सम्मदः केन वा स्यात्. त्वं चाचख्यात सख्येन नु महिततमां, श्रेयसां भक्तिमेकां, त्वद्भक्त्यानन्दतुल्यः, खलु विषयजुषां सम्मदः केन वा स्यात्.
Tum chachakhyatha sakhe nanumahitatamam shreyasam bhaktimekam totbhaktyanandatulyaha khalu vishayajusham sammadah kena vasyat. Tum chachakhyatha sakhe nanumahitatamam shreyasam bhaktimekam totbhaktyanandatulyaha खलु विषयजुषां सम्मदः केन वा स्यात्.
त्वं चाचख्याथ सख्येन नु महिततमां, श्रेयसां भक्तिमेकां, त्वद्भक्त्यानन्दतुल्यः, खलु विषयजुषां सम्मदः केन वा स्यात्. त्वं चाचख्यात सख्येन नु महिततमां, श्रेयसां भक्तिमेकां, त्वद्भक्त्यानन्दतुल्यः, खलु विषयजुषां सम्मदः केन वा स्यात्.
त्वद्भक्त्या तुष्टबुद्धेः सुखमिह चरतो विच्युता च शस्य चाशाः, सर्वास्युः सौख्यमय्यः, सलिलकुहरगस्येव तोयैकमय्यः, सोऽयं खल्विन्द्रलोकं कमलजभवनं, योगसिद्धिश्च हृद्याः, नाकाङ्क्षत्ये तदास्तां स्वयमनुपतिते मोक्ष सौख्येऽप्यनीहः. Like kind of continuing with the previous one, where we keep doing things because we want something in return. And if you always come back to why you want something, is always to be happy. At the end of the day, that is a root thing, right? And more importantly, to keep ourselves happy. We can say, I know there is a beautiful explanation in Bhagavatam which comes that we all keep telling, oh, it is to keep my family happy, it is that and all that. But at the end of the day, they are our family because they are related to us. That is why we want to do it, right? If a common man is there, we never do it, right? So it comes back to us of keeping us happy. So here Krishna is saying that a fish which is underwater, wherever the fish goes underwater, it always finds water, right? Because it likes water. So wherever it goes, it finds water. He says, similarly, as a human, you can always be happy wherever you are, in whatever situation you are, if, and he gives a few things. One, you do not desire anything in this world, right? You should not want anything. As long as you want nothing, you are able to remain the same in all conditions, knowing that this is what Bhagavan has intended for me. This is what I'm supposed to be getting it. So it's nothing about me being happy or sad. That is what I'm supposed to get. Kind of accept that and always put your mind on Bhagavan. If you kind of do these things, then Krishna is saying, then you will be happy no matter where. There is not a reason why you will not be happy, just like Kuhara Gaseva Toyeika Mayaha. Wherever the fish goes, it will always find water. Similarly, be that. And the most important thing, because of the chapter about liberation, is getting there of a person who wants liberation, truly, a true check is that person will want absolutely nothing in this world, not even Kamalaja Bhavanam, not even wanting to be Brahma, right? So not wanting anything on this earth, not wanting anything in the 14 worlds, not even wanting to be Brahma, and not wanting anything, right? And only devotion and completely surrender. That is a person who truly needs liberation. That is a person who, is an indication that they want to get liberated. त्वद्भक्त्या तुष्टबुद्धेः सुखमिह चरतो विच्युताशस्य चाशाः सर्वाः put is स्युः put another is सौख्यमय्यः सलिल कुहरगस्येव तोयैकमय्यः त्वद्भक्त्या तुष्टबुद्धेः सुखमिह चरतो विच्युताशस्य चाशाः सर्वास्युः सौख्यमय्यः सलिलकुहरगस्येव तोयैकमय्यः.
त्वद्भक्त्या तुष्टबुद्धेः सुखमिह चरतो विच्युताशस्य चाशाः सर्वास्यु सौख्यमय्यः सलिलकुहरगस्येव तोयैकमय्यः. त्वद्भक्त्या तुष्टबुद्धेः सुखमिह चरतो विच्युताशस्य चाशाः सर्वास्यु सौख्यमय्यः सलिलकुहरगस्येव तोयैकमय्यः.
त्वद्भक्त्या तुष्टबुद्धेः सुखमिह चरतो विच्युताशस्य चाशाः सर्वास्युः सौख्यमय्यः सलिलकुहरगस्येव तोयैकमय्यः. त्वद्भक्त्या तुष्टबुद्धेः सुखमिह चरतो विच्युताशस्य चाशाः सर्वास्युः सौख्यमय्यः सलिलकुहरगस्येव तोयैकमय्यः.
Toyam Khalvindra Lokam Kamalaja Bhavanam, Indralokam and Kamalaja Bhavanam, Satyalokam, Yoga Siddhischa Hridyaha. Nakang, ing sound there. Nakang Kshatyeta Dastam. You cannot break that word. So, Nakang Kshatyeta Dastam, Swayam Anupatite Moksha Saukyepya Nihaha. That's also one word. Moksha Saukyepya Nihaha. Soyam Khalvindra Lokam Kamalaja Bhavanam Yoga Siddhischa Hridyaha नाकाङ्क्षत्ये तथास्तां स्वयमनुपतिते मोक्षसौख्येऽप्यनीहः.
सोऽयं खल्विन्द्रलोकं कमलजभवनं योगसिद्धिश्च हृद्याः नाकाङ्क्षत्ये तदास्तां स्वयमनुपतिते मोक्षसौख्येऽप्यनीहः सोऽयं खल्विन्द्रलोकं कमलजभवनं योगसिद्धिश्च हृद्याः नाकाङ्क्षत्ये तदास्तां स्वयमनुपतिते मोक्षसौख्येऽप्यनीहः
सोऽयं कल्विन्द्रलोकं कमलजभवनं योगसिद्धिश्च हृद्याः नाकाङ्क्षत्येतदास्तां स्वयमनुपतिते मोक्षसौख्येऽप्यनीहः सोऽयं कल्विन्द्रलोकं कमलजभवनं योगसिद्धिश्च हृद्याः नाकाङ्क्षत्येतदास्तां स्वयमनुपतिते मोक्षसौख्येऽप्यनीहः.
All right, just switch halfway. Gayatri, you can be student, and Maitri, you can be student. Stanza 5. त्वद्भक्तो भाद्यमानोऽपि च विषयरसैरिन्द्रिया शान्तिहेतोः भक्त्यैवाक्रम्यमानैः पुनरपि खलु तैर्दुर्बलैर्नाभिजय्यः सप्तार्चिर्दीपितार्चिर्दहति किल यथा भूरिदारु प्रपञ्चं त्वद्भक्त्योगे तथैव प्रदहति दुरितं दुर्मदः क्वेन्द्रियाणाम्. Kind of continuing with that, wanting those who, because this is with a written with the plan that you want liberation, right? So it says that you have to be so devoted that you should want absolutely nothing but just only pure devotion, right? And that is what is absolutely important. And he says, even if you are not able to get all your senses under control, but if your intention is true, which is you only want true devotion, then even sometimes when other material things will try to conquer you, it says eventually the devotion will always succeed. Just like how a fire burns everything, this devotion is going to burn away those, because your intentions are true, right? He says similarly, your devotee, my devotee, Krishna is telling this to Uddhava, that my devotees cannot be completely conquered by senses if they truly are devoted to me and they truly want liberation of merging with me, right? And even that devotee, like we've seen with Ajamila's case, even if the devotee falls off the right path and ends up going in the wrong path for a small amount of time, the true devotion will bring them back into the true path. So they will always come back, right? That's why we always tell the kids, right? Even when you're small, you go learn everything, because even when you're teens and your 20s, you go in a different path because you don't believe will eventually come back, right? Because that will not let you go. It will eventually always come back. So that's why Krishna is saying, because the senses, Krishna is literally saying the senses cannot overcome me, right? That's what Krishna is saying. So if somebody is truly devoted to me, then there's no way that material things or other senses are going to overpower that person's devotion. Devotion will always, succeed at the end. Tvad bhakto badhyamanopi cha, comma, vishaya rasair, you can break at that rasair, indriya shanti hetoho, put a visargan, comma, hetoho, comma, Bhaktiyai vakramyamanaihi, one word. Bhaktiyai vakramyamanaihi, comma, punarapi khalu tair durbalair nabhijayyaha. Twadbhakto badhyamanopi cha vishayarasair indriya shanti hetoho bhaktiyai vakramyamanaihi पुनरपि खलु तैर्दुर्बलैर्नाभिजय्यः.
त्वद्भक्तो बाध्यमानोऽपि च विषयरसैरिन्द्रियाशान्ति हेतोः भक्त्यैवाक्रम्यमाणैः पुनरपि खलु तैर्दुर्बलैर्नाभिजय्यः. त्वद्भक्तो बाध्यमानोऽपि च विषयरसैरिन्द्रियाशान्तिहेतोः भक्त्यैवाक्रम्यमाणैः पुनरपि खलु दुर्बलैर्नाभिजय्यः.
त्वद्भक्त्यो बाध्यमानोऽपि च
विषरय सौरि इन्द्रिया शान्ति हेतोः भक्त्यैवाक्रम्यमाणैः पुनरपि खलु तैर्दुर्बलैर्नाभिजय्यः
First line, last word. Vishaya rasair indriya shanti.
विषय रसैर् इन्द्रिया शान्ति हेतोः त्वद्भक्तो बाध्यमानोऽपि च विषय रसैर् इन्द्रिया शान्ति हेतोः भक्त्यैवाक्रम्यमाणैः पुनरपि खलु तैर्दुर्बलैर्नाभिजय्यः
Saptarchir Deepitarchir. So ir coming into place. Saptarchir Deepitarchir Dahati Kila. Some books have Tatha, some books have Yatha. So we're going to change it to Yatha. So in case you have Tatha, change the first Ta to Ya. Kila Yatha, comma. Bhuri Daru Prapancham, comma. Tvat Bhaktyoge Tathaiva Pradahati Duritam, comma. Durmadaha, put a Durmadah Quendriyana. It's Qua Indriyana. Like what is the power the Indriyas have? Saptarchir Deepitarchir Dahati Kilayatha Bhuri Daru Prapancham Tvadbhaktyoge Tathaiva Pradahati Duritam Durmadah Quendriyanam.
शब्दार्चित् दीप्तिदार्चित् दहति किल यथा भूरितारुप्रपञ्चं त्वद्भक्त्योगे तथैव प्रतहति दुरितं दुर्मदक्वेन्द्रियाणां सप्तार्चिर् दीपिदाचिर् दहति किल यथा भूरितारुप्रपञ्चं त्वद्भक्त्योगे तथैव प्रदहति दुरितं दुर्मदक्वेन्द्रियाणां
सप्ताचिर् दीपितार्चिर् दहति किल यथा भूरिदारुप्रपञ्चं त्वद्भक्त्योगे तथैव प्रदहति दुरितं दुर्मदः क्वेन्द्रियाणां सप्ताचिर् दीपिताचिर् दहति किल यथा भूरिदारुप्रपञ्चं त्वद्भक्त्योगे तथैव प्रदहति दुरितं दुर्मदः क्वेन्द्रियाणाम्.
Answer 6. Chittadhri bhavamuchairvapushi cha pulakam harsha bhashpam cha hitva chittam shuddhyet katam va kimu bahu tapasa vidyaya vita bhaktehe त्वद्गाथा स्वाद सिद्धांजन सततमरि मृज्यमानो यमात्मा चक्षुर्वतत्व सूक्ष्मं भजति न तु तथाभ्यस्तया तर्ककोट्या. Kind of continuing with that pure devotion, right? It's like, and we saw this in Ajamila's episode, everything, right? Is that, any amount of knowledge you get, any amount of other karma yoga you follow, it is very possible that we cannot keep our mind under control. You are going to slip. You are going to, bad things are going to happen. You are going to get attached. But like in the previous stanza, Krishna has said, but if you are pure devotional, even though that happens, you will be able to recover faster, right? And the devotion he's talking about is not a devotion where, we spend 2 hours a day praying or we do something and saying we are devoted. It says the devotion has to be such that when you are sitting and praying to Krishna, your hair has to stand on your body. Like you need to have the horripilation on your body, right? And when you get that horripilation on your body, and your heart has to melt. Like if you truly think of somebody who you love so much, right? Pick up anybody in your family, you truly love them, right? So when you talk about them, your heart melts. there's tears coming from your eyes, not because you're sad, but you just think about them and you're just absolutely in love with them, right? He says that kind of bhakti you need to have, right? That when you're thinking of this God, that any God for that matter, right? That tears are coming out of your eyes, and then you should cry in that spiritual happiness, right? When that amount of bhakti is coming and you are devoted, then he says nothing else is relevant. You don't have to follow that karma. You don't have to follow this yoga. He says none of that is relevant at this point, because that is true devotion, that is true bhakti, and that supersedes everything else that is there. That's why in the end he says, Tarka Kotya is Tarka Shastram. So, like the concept of philosophy and argumentative philosophy, debating to kind of get to the answer, right? He says all of that is no longer relevant, because you're just, so much in devotion and bhakti that supersedes everything. So, Chittardri Bhavam Uchair Vapushi Cha Pulakam, Harsha Bashpam Cha Hitva, Chittam Shuddhyet Katam Va, Kimu Bahu Tapasa Vidyaya Vita Bhaktehe. Chittardhi Bhavamuchair Vapushi Chapulakam Harsha Bhashpam Cha Hitva Chittam Shuddhyet Katam Va Kimu Bahu Tapasa Vidyaya Vita Bhaktehe.
Chiddhatri Bhavamuchair Vapushi Chapulakam Harshabhashpam cha hitva Chittam Sudhyet Katam Va Kimu Bahuta Pasa Vidyaya Vita Bhaktehe. Siddhatri Bhavamuchair Vapushi Chapulakam Harshabhashpam hitva Siddham Sudhyet Katam Va Kimu Bahutas Pasa Vidyaya Vita Bhaktehe.
Chittardri Bhavamuchair Vapushi Cha Pulakam Harsha Bhashpam Cha Hitva Chittam Shuddhyet Katham Va Kimu Bahutapasa Vidyaya Vita Bhakte. Chittardri Vita Bhakte.
Yeah, Visarga Bhaktehe.
Okay. Chittardri Bhavamuchair Vapushi Cha Pulakam Harsha Bhashpam Cha Hitva Chittam Shuddhyet Katham Va Kimu Bahutapasa Vidyaya Vita Bhaktehe.
Tvad Gathaswada Siddhanjana Satata Mari Mrijyamanoya Matma. That's one word. Mrijyamanoya Matma. The whole line continues, Chakshur Vat Tattva Sukshmam Bhajati, Na Tu Tathabhyastaya Tarka Kotya. Twadgatha Swada Siddhanjana Satatamari Mrijyamanoyamatma Chakshurvat Tattva Sukshmam Bhajati Natu Tatabhyastaya Tarka Kotya.
Twadgada Swada Siddhanchana Satatamarim Mrijaya Manoya Matma Chakshurvat Tattva Sukshmam Bhajati Natu Tadabhyastaya Tarka Kotya.
Right on the third line, you're saying Mrijaya. It's Mrijya and Ijhabja.
Okay. Twadgada Swada Siddhanchana Sadadamarim Mrijya Manoya Matma Chakshurvat Tattva Sukshmam Bhajati Natu Tadabhyastaya Tarka Kotya.
Twadgathas Vada Siddhan Jana Satatam Mari Mrijyamano Yamatma Chakshurvat Tattva Suksham Bhajati न तु तथाभ्यस्तया कर्ककोट्या त्वद्गाथा स्वादसिद्धाञ्जनस तथ मृज्यमानोऽयमात्मा चक्षुर्वत् तत्त्वसूक्ष्मम् भजति न तु तथाभ्यस्तया कर्ककोट्या कर्ककोट्या
ध्यानं ते शीलहेयं समतनुसुखबद्धासनो नासिकाग्रन्यस्ताक्षः पूरकाधीः जितपवनपतश्चित्तपद्मं त्ववाञ्छम् ऊर्ध्वाघ्रं भावयित्वा रविभिदुषिखिनः संविचिन्त्योपरिष्टात् तत्रस्तं भावये त्वां सजलझलधरश्यामलं कोमलाङ्गम्. Next two stanzas very beautiful. Krishna is telling Uddhava how to actually meditate the right way, right? And in that he says, that he says you sit, right? You sit like we saw in the Ashtanga Yoga. Posture is very important, right? So you first have to be able to get all of this asanas. Assume that you are able to do all that. Assume you are able to do good pranayama. Assume you are able to have good posture control by you doing the various things. Then he says sit in a proper place, right? Keep your hands on your lap. He literally walks through it step by step. Keep your hands on your lap. And then he says you should focus your eyes not in the middle of your eyes. He says you should focus your eyes on the tip of your nose, right? You should focus your eyes on the tip of your nose, and then you should be able to control your breath, which of course we know for meditation, breath control is extremely important. So to be able to inhale, exhale, and all of that stuff, you should be able to control your breath, everything. And then you should not keep your eyes fully closed. If you look at any picture of Shiva or Narayanam in meditation, you'll see that the eyes are never fully closed. The eyes are like 90% closed. There's always a 10% which is open. You take a look at any meditation picture, proper picture. So, so they say with that, you keep your thing. And then he says, then you meditate such that in your heart, where the soul is supposed to be residing, there's a lotus. You imagine a lotus. And in that, you imagine the entire world situated there. And in that lotus, you imagine the form of the Lord. The form of Narayana with Chaturbhujam, with long hands, with a beautiful neck, with a very smiling face, this one and the next stanza really describe the form of the Lord, which we've seen in the Shakam 2 and everything, which is like in the dark gray rain-bearing clouds color. He's wearing a Pitambaram. The chest has a Shivatsa mark. He has the Kaustubam jewel. He has Chaturbhujam. He's carrying the Shankam, Padmam, Chakram, all of that lotus he's carrying, right? And then however you want to imagine, you imagine him in that form, right? Completely standing first. So in the 7th and 8th stanzas, he says you fully describes the form of the Lord and say you imagine him standing on the lotus with all the 14 words, like we spoke about the Virat Swarupam, all the 14 words, and you imagine that in your heart with your eyes and with your focus at the tip of your nose. Now it's very complicated, but I'm just telling what is there, right? So he says you get to that point and then you have your breath under control and then you meditate on that form first. To get complete control for a long period of time, you have to meditate on that form. And then the second line, the next stanza, 8th stanza, is the description of the form of the Lord. The first stanza is talking about the process I said. Dhyanam te shilayeyam, sama thanu sukha bhaddhasano nasikagra. Nasika agra means tip of your nose. Nasikagra, put a plus. Nyastakshaha, put a F. Nyastakshah Purakadhyehi. So put a visargan comma, Purakadhyehi. Next, on top of the jita, there is a ir that will go away. Jita, pavana, patash, chitta, padmam, twavancham. Dhyanam te shilaheyam samathanu sukha bhaddhasano nasika granyastakshah purakadhyehi. Jita pavana patashchitta padmam twavancham.
ध्यानं ते शीलयेयं समतनुसुखभक्तासनो नासिकाग्रन्यताक्षपूरगात्यैः जितभवनपदश्चित्तपद्मं त्ववाञ्छम्. சரியா வரமாட்டேங்குது, சாரி.
Try it again, yeah.
தியானம் தே சீலயேயம் சமதனுசுக்க, அந்த சீலயேயம்க்கு அப்புறம்
தியானம் தே ஷீலயேயம்.
ஓகே. தியானம் தே சீலயேயம் समतनुसुखबद्धासनो नासिकाग्रत् न्यत्ताक्षपूरगात्यैः जितपवनपदश्चिद्दपद्मं त्ववाञ्छम्.
ध्यानं ते शीलयेयं समतनुसुखबद्धासनो नासिकाग्रे न्यस्ताक्षः पूरकाद्यैः जितपवनपतश्चित्तपद्मं त्ववाञ्छम्.
The first line, last word, nasikagra. I think you said gray, kagra.
ध्यानं ते शीलयेयं समतनुसुखबद्धासनो नासिकाग्रन्यस्ताक्षपूरकाद्यैः जितपवनपथश्चित्पदं
चित्तपद्मं.
சித்தபத்மம் துவவாஞ்சம். சொன்னாதான் அது சரியா லேண்ட் ஆகுது. பத்மம்,
சித்தபத்மம் துவவாஞ்சம். The padmam is a lotus. So ऊर्ध्वाग्रं भावयित्वा, comma, ravi vidhu shikinah, put is shikinas, samvichintyoparishtat, that's one word, samvichintyoparishtat, comma, tatrastham bhavayetvam, comma, sajala jaladhara shyamalam komalangam. So imagine him standing there on the lotus in your heart. Urdhvagram bhavayitva ravi bhidu shikina samvichintyoparishtat tatrastam bhavayetvam sajala jaladhara shyamalam komalangam.
ऊर्ध्वं वाग्रं भावयित्वा रविविदुषिखिनः संसिचिन्त्योपरिष्टात् तत्रस्तं भावये त्वां सजलधरश्यामलं कोमलाङ्गम्. ऊर्ध्वाग्रं भावयित्वा रविविदुषिखिनः संविचिन्त्योपरिष्टात् तत्रस्तं भावये त्वां सजलधरश्यामलं कोमलाङ्गम्.
ऊर्ध्वाग्रं भावयित्वा रविविधुशिखिनः संविचिन्त्योपरिष्टात् तत्रस्थं भावये त्वां सजलधरश्यामलं कोमलाङ्गम्. ऊर्ध्वाग्रं भावयित्वा रविविधुशिखिनः संविचिन्त्योपरिष्टात् तत्रस्थं भावये त्वां सजलधरश्यामलं कोमलाङ्गम्.
Stanza 3, after bhavayitva, the comma is there, okay, in stanza 3, line 3. Stanza 8, anhilashlakšnakesham ज्वलितमकरसत्कुण्डलं मन्दहासस्यन्दार्द्रं कौस्तुभश्री परिगतवनमालोरुहाराभिरामं श्रीवत्साङ्कं सुबाहुं मृदुलसदुदरं काञ्चनच्छायचेलं चारुस्निग्धोरुमम्बोरुहललितपदं भावयेऽहं भवन्तं. Literally describing the form of Krishna. Right, and we'll see more of this in the 100th Dasakam, but it's very consistent with what is there in the second chapter also when we saw the form of the Lord. Like I said, imagine 4 hands carrying all of that, the fish-shaped earrings which are reflecting on his cheeks, and then, lustrous hair, And then, the smile, Mandasmidar, the smiling face, and the Shivatsa mark, and the Kaustuba jewel, and the Pitambaram, and everything. Anila Shlakshna Kesham, comma, Jwalita Makara Sat Kundalam Manda Hasa, put a plus, Syandardram, and then a comma. So Syandardram, comma, Kaustubha Shri Parigata Vanamaloru Harabhiramam. Ahila Shlakshnakesham Jwalita Makarasat Kundalam Mandahasa Syandardram Kaustubha Shri Parigata Vanamaloru Harabhiramam.
आनीलक्ष्णकेशं ज्वलितमहरसत्कुण्डलं मन्दहासस्यन्दाद्रं वनमालोरुहाभिरामम् वनमालोहाराभिरामम्
Vanamaloru Harabhiramam.
Okay, वनमालोरु आनीलक्ष्णकेशं ज्वलितमहरसत्कुण्डलं मन्दहासस्यन्दाद्रं कौस्तुभश्री परिगदवनमालोरुहाराभिरामम्
आनीलक्ष्णकेशं ज्वलितमकरसत्कुण्डलं मन्दहासस्यन्दाद्रं कौस्तुभश्रीपरिगतवनमलोरुहाराभिरामम् लक्षणकेशं
Once again. Anila Shlakshna Kesham.
आनीलक्ष्णकेशं ज्वलितमकरसत्कुण्डलं मन्दहासस्यन्दार्द्रं कौस्तुभश्रीपरिगतवनमालोरुहाराभिरामम्
Srivatsankam Subahum, comma, Mridu Lasadudaram Kanchana Chayachelam, comma, Charu Snigdhorum. You can break it that ma. Snigdhorum Amboruha Lalita Padam, comma, Bhavayeham Bhavantam. Means I will meditate on that form. Shivatsankam Subahum Mridu Lasadudaram Kanchana Chayachelam Charu Snigdhorum Amboruha Lalita Padam Bhavayeham Bhavantam.
श्रीवत्साङ्गं शुभाहुं मृदुलसतुदरं काञ्चनच्छायचेलं चारुस्निग्धोरुहम् अम्बोरुह ललितपदं भावयेऽहं भवन्तं श्रीवत्साङ्गं शुभाहुं मृदुलसदुतरं काञ्चनच्छायचेलं चारुस्निग्धोरुमम्बोरुह ललितपदं भावयेऽहं भवन्तम्.
On the third line, Mridu Lasadudaram.
Okay, mrudu lasatudaram. Okay.
श्रीवत्साङ्गं तुबाहुं मृदुलसदुदरं काञ्चनश्चायचेलं चारुस्निग्धोरुम् अम्भोरुह ललितपदं भावयेऽहं भवन्तं श्रीवत्साङ्गं सुबाहुं मृदुलसधुधरं काञ्चनच्छायचेलं चारुस्निग्धोरुम् अम्भोरुह ललितपदं भावयेऽहं भवन्तम्.
Krishnaaya Parabrahmane Namaha. In the class here today, सान्द्रानन्दावबोधात्मकमनुपमितं कालदेशावधिभ्यां निर्मुक्तं नित्यमुक्तं निगमशतसहस्रेण निर्भास्यमानम् अस्पष्टं दृष्टमात्रे पुनरुरुपुरुषार्थात्मकं ब्रह्मतत्त्वं तत्तावद्भाति साक्षात् गुरुपवनपुरे हन्त भाग्यं जनानाम् कायेन वाचा मनसेन्द्रियैर्वा बुद्ध्यात्मना वा प्रकृते स्वभावात् करोमि यद्यत् सकलं परस्मै नारायणायेति समर्पयामि.